Billy Osborne, Inside the Birds podcast. Defend your head. Former Philadelphia Eagle, former Chiefs scout, former Pitt Panther radio analyst. Pitt got crushed on Saturday. I will throw that in there. He joins us now here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline to take a look.
Did you even mention the podcast? My goodness.
I did. I said Inside the Birds podcast.
Okay. See, now all I can think of is...
I led with that.
But see, but you ended with a rip. So it took away all the nice things you said about him leading up to it.
That's because it's Pitt, right, Billy?
I just
42.
I was all excited, and boom, I had the right overcross hit me right through it. But it's to be expected from a West Virginia Mountaineer graduate. I take it in stride.
All right, let's look at this game tonight because it's very important, and we know that we saw them against the Giants. I mean, if they want any hope to trying to get on a run and make the playoff, they got to win this game tonight. And I want to start with Josh Adams and what you saw from him and whether or not they can lean. Now, if he plays, he is questionable tonight. Apparently, he aggravated a hip injury on Saturday. But can they lean on this kid to try to get them a win tonight?
You know what? It's interesting you say that. I talked to a GM and a scout in the NFL about Josh Adams, and it's interesting to hear his story. He was a guy who was undrafted free agent, but he was a Heisman Trophy candidate. He came out early, so he's got the skills. I personally think whether it's him or Corey Clement, and if I've talked to some other people, the reason why he wasn't used as much, everybody was kind of questioning that, wasn't really a discipline. It was because he was banged up. So, I think that for Doug and this team to have success tonight, they do need to lean on the running game like they did in the second half last week. That to me is the key, not only for them offensively, but it will help them on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Corey Clemens kind of, I think he got talked about last week because of the way Adams kind of had. But I agree. I thought that was kind of a reemergence for him. I thought it was maybe the most explosion that he's shown all year.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And it's interesting. When I was watching it, I always watch people react. I love watching how, like, whether it's fans or coaches or anybody, how they react after a play. Well, Mike, you and I could have ran through that hole when they ran that tackle trap. I mean, they were not ready for that, and he just busted up in there. But my feeling was that when you're in the open field, that's when your skill sets need to really show. And it was interesting when he got up and he pounded his chest, like, me, feed me the ball. I mean, I'm all for all the hand. But I thought to myself, listen, that up front, they got the Giants in a zone run blitz. They got everybody blocked at the line of scrimmage. Nobody laid a hand on him. The only guy that between him and the end zone was one guy. That's when your skill set needs to take over. That's when you need to make somebody miss. And he didn't do that. And it was interesting. Deuce Staley was on a show, and he said the same thing. Great job by us up front, but this is what I got on him in the huddle and in the meeting room. That one guy, he needs to beat him. And he needs to make that guy miss. And you saw later in the game, he did a great job on a screen where he got hit after about 8-yard run and broke 2 tackles and got another 10, 15 yards. So I think it would be nice to see Corey back there with him and Josh. I think that's the key to be able for the offense to move the ball. Run the ball, stay with it, pick your spots, play action pass. Even if you get behind, don't get pass happy.
Billy, that leads me into my question for you. Surrounding the run game, I guess with that in the backdrop, one of the biggest matchup issues or concerns I think Eagles fans should have would be this offensive line, which has been playing better, I think, than people give credit for. But Washington's front has been a menace this year, and I know that the last week or so it hasn't looked that, but consistently week in and week out, they have been. How does that factor in tonight to the Eagles' ability to run the football well?
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about that. That front seven of the Redskins are very good, and they run a lot of schemes. They actually are one of a really good teams that they run a twist with a stunt, and it's interesting how they do that up front when they get into that passing, and they've had success against the Eagles where they take their linemen and the one goes into a guy, and then he bounces off, and he kind of seals the other guy. The other guy runs a stunt, and then as that guy is sealing, you think that you're blocking him, and he just releases and comes in, and they have a lot of success with that. So the Eagles got to be prepared for that in the offensive part of it. And a lot of times when you get a team like the Redskins, where you get a lot of 1-2 yard runs, that's part of that defense. You have to stay patient, because once in a while, when you get everybody blocked, then you don't have anybody in that second level, and that's when you have those big 15, 20, 25-yard runs. So I know it's going to be hard sledding, but in my opinion, based on what the Eagles have offensively and also what's going on the defensive side of the ball, they need to stay with it. It's going to be tough, but you know this as well as I do. When you have a team like that, do things against them that takes advantage of what they do, which is really great upfield pressure. So you run screens, draws, counters. These are the type of things in the run game that will take advantage of that heavy rush.
Do you think that they would be, I guess, served well to kind of take some shots downfield early on? You make the great point about softening them up underneath, but maybe there's an opportunity early for Doug Peterson to attack them deep and force them to kind of think about that in the first, second quarter where they can establish the run.
Well, it's all going to be dependent upon what they have defensively. I mean, if they're running a 3 high, you're not going to probably get behind them by just running, a go route. A play action will be great to get them freed up in the secondary. Here's my thing, is that I'm really surprised about what the Eagles have been doing from a running perspective, and what they're doing in the what you call in the everybody has scripted plays, right? So you have 10, 15 scripted plays. Most teams score on their scripted plays, and that sets the tone for what they're going to do to attack the defense.
Not the Eagles.
Afterwards. But the Eagles not only have not scored, they haven't even gotten first downs in their scripted plays. So I am really, I guess you could say, I'm really anxious to see what Coach Peterson has in his scripted plays in those first 15 plays, because that's going to set the tempo, and that's also going to set up a lot of what they do afterwards. And my concern, you guys, is this. The Eagles had success running the ball in the second half. However, we all see the tendency that Doug does when, what he's been doing, and he likes to throw the ball. And, we've been talking about this since week 2 or 3. My concern was always, and I've said it, and you know this, Mike, that they were relying too much on Carson, and they were relying too much on the passing game, and it had a ripple effect through that offense, and the offensive line was struggling. I'm concerned that, as you guys just said, it's going to be tough to run against the Redskins. But you need to do it. So you need to stay committed to it. I'm concerned if they don't have success early on, or they get behind in the score, they're going to go back to a passing team, which makes you one-dimensional, which, in my opinion, will play right into the Redskins strategy.
Billy Osborne with us here, his Inside the Birds podcast with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher. Mosher out today. His young boy, his young girl, I was going to say, sorry, is not feeling well, so he's home being a good dad today. But, hey, what about...
He sends his best. I just spoke to him. He sends his best.
Okay. Well, we'll talk to him hopefully tomorrow. Doug Peterson's play calling. You mentioned the 15 plays, but overall, did you think that he did a better job, and that once you get over that hump to say, all right, I got to change some things, does that make you feel like, because last year they had that game in Kansas City where they were terrible, and they asked LeGarrette after the game, you didn't run the ball at all, and he said, well, I don't call the plays. And then the next week they played the Chargers. They ran all over them. So once, you would get to that point where you admit wrongdoing, do you think that the play calling, Doug Peterson's play calling, will be changing tonight?
Here's the deal. It's a great question, Mike. Here's the deal. The bottom line in play calling is you got to do, our buddy Herm Edwards said, you play to win the game. Is that his quote? Was that his quote, right?
That's word for word.
To win, right? Okay. So you play to win the game. So, and I remember also the great golfer Chichi Rodriguez said, you got to play with what you have that day. So in other words, if you're used to hitting a draw, and for whatever reason the draw is not working, but you can hit the fade, well, guess what? You can't just pack up your clubs and go home. You can't pack up your footballs and your helmets and go home. If something, you got to play what's winning, what's being effective. So my thought is, whatever is that's going to get you to win the game is what you need to do. That being said, That being said, as I have shared, I was shocked at how ineffective our scripted plays have been over the last 5 or 6 weeks. I was shocked at how much we threw the ball. Last week, it's amazing what a win can do. Mike, I sent you that text, and I put it on my Twitter account. They were a fingernail, okay, a fingernail from being 4-7, a fingernail. They come out in 4th and 1, and unbeknownst to me, I can't even think about this because I play on defense too. You go empty set shotgun on 4th and short. So you right away tell the defense, don't worry about your run responsibilities. Don't worry about gap contain. Just pin your ears back, get after the quarterback, and everybody else drop in coverage or play man-to-man. That was shocking to me. Now, the play call was phenomenal. They ran the 2 shallow crosses that crisscrossed. They ran the deep dig to hold the safety and the corners on the hash, and then they ran that middle read. Tremendous play call. But if you watch the replay, B.J. Hill almost knocks the ball down when, thank God, Carson is 6'5" with a high release point, or the Eagles would have given the ball on the 25-yard line, and the Giants would have had 2 minutes to either score a touchdown or kick a field goal to win the game, and we'd be talking about something different. So everybody's just got to, pump the brakes a little bit. Yes, they won, but they won because of going on 4th and 1, and for some reason, the Giants either took helium hits at halftime, or somebody got distracted, or did something because they had the lead. They were on pace to set the record for rushing yards and passing yards against the Eagles, and for some reason they took that Barkley and said, you know what, let's go 16 minutes without giving you a touch. So I think it was more the Giants giving the Eagles, the game in the second half than the Eagles taking it. That being said, nobody quit. They did a great job. They pounded the ball, and they did what they had to do. So I know this is a roundabout question, or answer to your question, but I just wanted to make sure you want to know where it was coming from. I do feel that the Eagles will try and run the ball this afternoon or this evening. I do think that's the game plan, and I think it's going to help their defense, which we can talk about too. But I am concerned that Doug's going to get away from it when push comes to shove, like I said, because they're so good up front. I think the Eagles either run downhill. But my concern, Mike, because we were talking about the play calling, is that they were too vanilla. There's no shifting. There's no motion. I'm not saying you got to have a lot of trickeration, but this is the National Football League, and your job offensively is to do something to make the defense think you're doing it, but really you're not. And that's what play calling is all about, setting up the play to be successful.
All right, well, let's build off that. Mike Rowe, is he currently coaching for his job, in your opinion?
Mike Rowe, is he currently coaching? What was that last part?
For his job.
Oof.
I don't know how much people.
I mean, think about this. Has honestly, let's look at it, Billy. Has the damage already been done?
Well, it seems it's the season to be firing people right now. I mean, they fired McCarthy yesterday.
Yeah, but I don't imagine Mike Rowe getting fired in season. My point is, at the end of this year, for all intents and purposes, the Eagles do not make the playoffs. I guess my question to Billy is there enough time to undo all of the damage that has been done by Groh and others to the point in which we're looking and saying, what the hell happened with the addition of Golden Tate? I don't know. That's why I ask you, Billy, do you think that he's coaching for his job, or do you think that he's pretty much set in stone, either he's gone or he's going to come back?
Well, first off, let me just say this, and I know sometimes the radio, they say, don't compliment whatever. That is a great observation on your point, and what I mean by that is this. Play calling doesn't just start on the game day. It starts right after the game ends the week prior when you start breaking down film. And in my opinion, their schematic attack has changed since they lost to Flippo and they lost Frank Wright. And then that falls on the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach who took their position and took their places. And that, to me, because Doug relied a lot on those guys in figuring out what plays you want to put in that week and installing them, and then deciding what's going to be part of the game plan that week. Because, you come up with a bunch of plays, let's say 40 or 50. You implement the new ones, install the new ones. You figure out personnel groupings. By about Thursday or Friday, then you kind of get that down to about 20 or 30. And then you decide, okay, here's what we're going to do. And Frank Wright and DeFlippo had a lot to do with that. I think Doug ultimately is the guy who calls the plays, but they still have a great impact during the week and during the game on what's being called. And I think that really it all starts with the play calling, but it starts all the way back with the install, and that has to do with the coaching. So, yes, I think these next couple weeks, if they don't play better offensively, he could be on the market after the season. I don't think he's going to lose his job now or next week, but I do think that's a big part of how they overall observation and looking at the offense and what went wrong, and I think that's a big key. So great observation. That's going to be a key for tonight's game, and I think you're right. If that doesn't improve, he could be on the market in a couple of weeks.
Interesting, too. Billy Osborne's with us here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline. They're not too happy with DeFilippo out in Minnesota either. Apparently there's some rift between him and Zimmer. And then how about this report the other day?
Well, you know why, right, Mike? Mike, you know why?
Go ahead.
You know why?
No, go ahead.
Well, from my sources tell me that Zimmer is a pounded guy. He's a run-first guy. And DeFilippo is a passing guy. And,
right.
You know, when you're a quarterback, you know, look at all the stuff that, you know, Andy Reid is doing with that young quarterback out there. You know, a lot of times you get, you know, those accolades because your quarterback's throwing touchdowns. So I'm just giving you an example. On the 1st and goal from the 2. Well, you want to score a touchdown, right? Well, you know, you can easily run it in. You're going to take 2 or 3 plays and run the football in. Well, a lot of times coordinators will go empty set or they'll pass the ball. Why?
Right.
It's an easy touchdown. So now instead of having 18 touchdowns, now the pass quarterback has 19 touchdowns. You do that a couple weeks. Next thing you know, you have 6 or 7 more touchdown passes, and it makes the whole coordinator, the quarterback coach, everybody looks good if the quarterback's throwing more touchdown passes.
You know, and I want to get your take real quick on, do you think that the Eagles' offense has been too dependent on Zach Ertz? Do they give him too much attention?
I think that, you know, I think there is some design play call for the tight end when you have a choice route. You know, we do see a lot of times they'll run, you know, a shallow cross, or they'll run an over guy to take somebody out and have him run a choice route, and they're looking, you know, as a former quarterback, it's much easier and you feel much more comfortable throwing in your sight lines between the hash marks. It's just an easier thing. When I play call and when I have the younger kids, and if it's a 3rd and long situation or something like that, I know that it's not real comfortable for them to drop straight back and look on the whole side of the field. So I like to do a lot of moving of the pocket. I like to have them to roll out so they can see their progression. A guy in the flat,
right,
a guy in the next level, and then a deep guy. So everything's right in front of you. So I think that part of it is just because Carson's a young quarterback and you're much more comfortable throwing between the hashes. You know, it takes him many years to have that comfortability where you're going to throw to a guy on an out route as he's starting to come on and run his right out route. You're throwing to a spot. A lot of quarterbacks now, they need to see the guy. They need to see his numbers before they throw the football. Well, the great ones throw and anticipate, and they throw to a spot. Carson is still developing that. So I think the fact that that's the case, plus Zach is such a talented guy and a great route runner that, yes, you know, they throw the ball a lot to him. And I think what you saw the last couple of weeks is that he's being doubled. So Carson is being forced to go to other progressions along his reads, and sometimes he struggles with that. So are they relying too much on Zach? I mean, I do think they need to get the ball down the field. That will open them up a little bit. Bottom line is you need to throw to the guy and throw to the person that's open. And, you know, I think they need to get the ball more to Golden Tate for sure. And they need to get some guys who spread the field a little bit so you can have a lot more. I don't see guys running free, Mike. And that's the thing. Those windows are so tight, and that has a lot to do with how you design your play. So, yeah, I do think they need to spread the ball out a little bit more.
All right, great breakdown for tonight. It is starting at 6 o'clock with the countdown to kickoff right here on 97.3 ESPN. Merrill and Mike have the call, 8:20, as the Eagles take on the Redskins with essentially their season on the line. You can check Billy Osborne out, his Inside the Birds podcast with Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan. He's at Ozzy_football. And don't forget to check out Defend Your Head to learn more about concussions and how you can possibly cut them down. And I know I saw that article about the Wildwood football team wearing the Defend Your Head product. So doing a lot of good things, Billy. Thanks, pal.
Thank you very much. Just want to send a real nice thank you to Brian Kniff, who wrote that article, and, of course, Coach Rich Hahns, who really did a really nice thing to go out there and say how much that Defend Your Head and the ProTech product helped him this season. So you're right. Check that out if you can. And as we talked about before, please help me with my followers on Twitter because I cannot stand that Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan are beating me. So my competitive nature is all spiked up, Mike. So thanks, buddy.